First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for also contributing to our first ever reported piece. We've been huge fans of your work for such a long time. And so for everyone who is joining us now, you can see some of Mashal's work on our website at saaganthology.com. If you go to reporting, the section on reporting, her work is up there alongside Shah Meer Baloch's reported piece on Mahrang Baloch. But just to introduce you all to Mashal, Mashal is a documentary photographer and filmmaker from Balochistan in Pakistan. She's a trainee at the Documentary Association of Pakistan for their 6-month documentary training program called Doc Balochistan, supported by Berlinale Talents. Her work has been published in The Guardian, Los Angeles Times, The Diplomat, and Baloch Hal. Thanks again, Mashal. I will just get started by really just asking you, okay, how did you get started with photography? What drew you to this medium as a form of expression, and even especially in the form of photojournalism?
Noor, thank you so much for inviting me to SAAG's Instagram session, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. So, I was like, my parents wanted me to become a doctor, to study medicine, like most of Desi parents want to. So obviously, I was not interested in doing medicine or becoming a doctor. So I joined media sciences, and I'm still doing my bachelor's. And so I like taking pictures. I bought myself a camera. So my first work was unpaid work, actually. It was for The Diplomat, and it was about an old bookshop in F7 Islamabad. So that was my first gig, unpaid gig. And what was really interesting about that work was that I was very much invested in it. I went to that bookshop like straight 3 days to see what I can find interesting to photograph. And I contacted other senior photographers like Asad Zaidi Saab, कि please मुझे help कर दें, मेरा पहला काम है. So he would guide me कि बेटा इस तरह pictures लो, ऐसे करो. So that was the first time कि मैंने सोचा कि yeah, I can do this. Pictures ले सकती हूँ मैं, pictures publish होती हैं, and this is a thing, like photojournalism is a thing, and how powerful pictures can be. So that was the first my published work, and other was for The Guardian, and it was also a test trial sort of thing. They asked me to take pictures, and it was about plastic bag ban in Islamabad. So they said, "Aap jao, pictures lo, and we'll just see. If they were good enough, we'll post them, we'll publish them, and if they were not, so just take it as a practice." So obviously, I was very excited and very much like. So what happened was that I roamed the city again 2-3 days looking for something interesting, and I took lots of pictures. It was a small story of just 500 words, but I took like 200 pictures, and then I shortlisted them to about 5 or 6 pictures, and then I sent it to them. So surprisingly, they liked the pictures, and they used 2 of them. So this was how all of this started.
That's really interesting because it's a small story about a plastic bag ban, and you found a way to put 200 pictures about a plastic bag ban. So for me, I'm not an expert photographer, but I'm very curious as to what did you see around you that you could turn into that story? Like, what were some images that from the plastic bag ban specifically that you said, oh, this is an interesting image for a story that's very simple and straightforward?
Because I was in Islamabad at that time, so I was with my driver, and we used to stop at every, dump we found, and I would, see कि कहीं पे plastic नजर आ जाए उसकी picture लेनी है. So dumps में we went to slums वहाँ पे, and because when there was a plastic ban in Islamabad, so it was only followed in posh sectors like F6, F7, not in places like Mehrabadi, where my maid works. So I went with my maid to that place and see कि उन्हें पता भी है इस चीज का या नहीं. So they didn't know what was the ban, मतलब क्यों plastic bag use नहीं करना? So I took pictures in Mehrabadi also, in other slums, and those dump places.
Sorry, I think the signal is weak. Hello? Hello? Sorry, I think I lost you for a second. We can just continue. You can just continue. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So this was how this all started, and because this was my first paid and in a big newspaper thing, so I tried to take as many pictures as I can and to look at other photographers' work, other photojournalists' work. So then I shortlisted the pictures accordingly. Okay, these are the pictures that people use. These are the pictures जो कि newspaper में लगती हैं. So I shortlisted those kind of pictures.
And so, which other photojournalists do you generally look to for inspiration and also for guidance? As you were saying, Asad Zaidi Saab was the person who gave you advice. You know, I'd love to hear more about the people who you've looked at advice, or also किस किस्म की advice उन्होंने दी थी? Like, what was the biggest suggestion they gave you?
Okay, so Asad Zaidi Saab was the first person to give me a suggestion about this because he's a fatherly person for me. So he would tell me on WhatsApp कि इस angle से picture लो, कुछ interesting ढूंढो. And I only had a 50 mm lens. For those of you who's watching this won't believe it, जिनको photography का पता है, कि when you have a 50 mm lens, it means you have to do a lot of leg work. आगे जाना, पीछे जाना, क्योंकि आपका लेंस बस 50 mm है. तो मैंने 7-8 न्यूज एजेंसीज के लिए काम किया उसी 50 mm लेंस से, बिकॉज मुझे असद जैदी साहब बताते थे कि ये करो. एंड देन देयर इज दानियाल शाह, ही इज आल्सो माय मेंटोर. He has worked for different news agencies, so I contacted him. He told me कि इस तरह pictures लो, ये करो. He shared a lot of online links regarding photojournalism. So this was how, मतलब इन सब के support से. And there are other photographers like Saina Bashir. I haven't been in contact with her, but I see her work on Instagram, and she's the only woman photojournalist there, I guess, working for Reuters. So she's someone I look up to. I'm inspired by her. So I look at her work on Instagram. So I just see कि वो किस तरह की pictures ले रही है, वो क्या कर रही है, कौन सी pictures powerful होती है. So this is how I learned. And also another thing about photography is that it's not about how well equipped you are. I mean, you should be. But if I can take so many pictures and work for so many news agencies with a 50 mm, so I think anyone can do that. It's about, you have to be dedicated.
It's about creativity also, is finding the right shot in a moment and capturing that moment, because it's a very hard thing to see the right moment in time and get a hold for the story. And as you were saying, you found one other woman photojournalist who you were inspired by. And one thing that I've noticed, खास तौर पे, if you're roaming around in Pakistan as a woman on the street, or especially in sensitive situations, you are extra conscious. But as a photographer, you're supposed to be removed from those situations. You're observing the world around you to some extent. So I'm curious as to, like, how as a woman has it affected your work as a photographer, your interactions with the subjects? Does your gender may play a role, or has it made a difference in how people perceive you coming towards them with camera? I'm just curious how that works.
It's quite an interesting question, and there's both pro and cons to it. So the pro is that when I'm in Balochistan and working over there as a woman, it means like when I was documenting my film, so I got access to the children's homes just because I was a woman, because I wear this traditional dress, and because I can speak their language. So these are the plus points. If you're a woman, if you can speak their language, if you're able to communicate with them and make them understand what the film is about, what the photography is about, so obviously they would let you in. So this is a plus point. I mean, male photographers don't get to, nobody would allow them in their houses. So this is a plus point. But the cons are really, when I was in Quetta, I was on an assignment for The Guardian and I had to photograph a subject. It was about, he had COVID and it was about social stigma of having coronavirus. So he asked me to take his pictures in a marketplace. It's called NATO Market. So taking pictures in Quetta, in a market, in a male-dominated market, so obviously it gets awkward and people look at you like कि ये क्या pictures ले रही है बाजार के बीच में ना ये कौन सी photography. And then your subjects also get awkward because of the place. Balochistan is not a place ke randomly you take a camera to a market. So obviously वो awkward scenes होते हैं and it takes a little time, 5 to 10 minutes कि आपका subject भी थोड़ा सा relax हो जाए और then you take pictures. Other than that, I have been to places like Mach and Bolan where I don't think most of the male photographers have. So I won't say that it's very, very bad to be a woman working in field because I have been to Mach and I have been to Balochistan and nobody has bothered me over there. Obviously, they look at you, they stare at you, and it's just for 5-10 minutes. Then they, get used to it. So
that's really interesting. And you said that you wait for the subject, especially in Quetta, where you have a marketplace with lots of men staring and the subject gets uncomfortable. So what generally do you do to make the subject comfortable? How do you relax the people you're working with? And not just in the marketplace you described, you've covered protests, you've covered some very difficult situations. How do you get the person you're covering to essentially trust you or be natural around you or just, relax around you?
With the person I was photographing in the market, I had known him for quite some time over WhatsApp and we were in contact. So I met him off the camera once or twice. So he was comfortable with me like as a friend and he wanted to be photographed. But it's just that the place that we were in, the environment that we were in, so that environment was making him uncomfortable.
Okay.
Although he wasn't. But the environment was making him uncomfortable. So it's just that it's with Zulkarnain, that subject, it was hard for a couple of minutes, but then it was okay.
Okay.
But when you're covering protest, I have covered Mahrang's protest and a protest in Ravi River, right? So in protest, because Mahrang's protest was a protest done by students. It was something very peaceful and it lasted for 10 days. So there were a lot of students, a lot of female students. It was not just me. So it was kind of easy to photograph because there were other people of my age, same gender. They were also female. So it was not a problem. But when I was in Lahore and photographing a protest in Ravi, so there were lots of men in the protest, tribal men, and and I was the only woman over there. So they were like, sometimes men, they just want you to feel comfortable, but that makes you more uncomfortable. They were like, side baji ko jagah de aur ye sab na. So that makes it a bit difficult. And, if there's a crowd and everyone over there is a man and you're the only woman, तो आपको फिर थोड़ा सा nudge करके आगे पीछे ये सब करना होता है. And then you have to do as a photographer, you have to be very deep in these. You have to get the shot.
Yeah.
किसी भी तरह you have to get it. आप female हो, male हो, you have to get the shot. So protest में it's obviously difficult. आप किसी को wait नहीं करा सकते, आप subject के साथ उस तरह interact नहीं कर सकते, protest चल रहा है. You just have to be there and take pictures of everything that's happening.
So the protest that you covered is actually one that for the people who are now tuning in, you can see some of those photographs on our website under the reporting section, where Mashal covered Mahrang Baloch's protest at the BMC Medical College. And that was a particularly powerful protest. There was a hunger strike going on. But you've also covered you've covered a lot of other issues. You've covered the issue of Afghan refugees in Pakistan. And many more. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the more difficult or tough experiences you had to navigate? You just told us one in Ravi, but I'm interested in hearing more about some of the, I guess, maybe some ethical questions that you've had to address when you're working on the field. Could you share some of those with our viewers?
Okay, so one time I was in Mach. It's a town specifically known for its jail and for the coal mines. So I have been working in Mach for more than 3 months now. And it's like a second home to me now because of the kids who are working over there. So my documentary is about those kids. So I spend a lot of time over there with the kids. So one day what happened was that I was with the kids as usual, and there was this man. He was also a worker from KPK. So he had this long beard, and it's safe to say that he was a mullah. So he came and he just started lecturing me, "Ke, why are you here? I don't understand. Why do you keep coming back here? You know that this is a space where we work and there are only men over here. Why do you come here? And what's the point of coming here with a camera and you should be indoors? Women are supposed to be indoors." And I'm just telling this to you for your betterment. And he started lecturing me for straight 10 to 15 minutes. And I was listening to him patiently until Shamir was with me. He tried to talk to him. I didn't even try to talk to him because I thought it's useless, because he was like 70 or 80 or something. And it was completely useless to make him understand something, because there's no way that a man of this age would, automatically change if I talk to him for an hour or so. So he tried to cool things down, but this was something that, it was a very hard and awkward situation, especially in front of the kids. He started lecturing me, "Why are you here? And Quran mein aise nahi hai," and started lecturing me about what Islam is and what Islam is not. So this is what happens when you go to remote places and you're a woman. They just don't, what do you call it? They don't endure it or bardasht nahi kar sakte ke there's a woman in this space and with a camera, like she has some kind of power. She's in a power position. So
That's an interesting point.
This is what happens.
That's obviously it's a very tough and awkward situation. Hello, sorry. So it's a very tough and awkward situation, especially because you're working and you want to continue your work and focus on that. And you made this really good point about, as a woman with camera, you are seen as someone who has some kind of power. You are the person with the lens. You're going to depict them a certain way. There's that power dynamic involved. So I'm curious as to, when it comes to that power dynamic, you were saying that you've been to Mach so many times, you've developed a relationship with the children you work with for your documentary. You've done that with so many other people across Balochistan who perhaps, because you've been covering it for so long. How have you sort of worked through like your relationship with the subject in terms of, say, the power you hold as a person with a camera? There's always a person looking at you with like, I'm concerned as to how they're going to depict me, and you want to be as fair as possible to the people you're depicting. So I'm wondering, like, this is a very sort of vague question, so you can always say I don't understand what you mean, but I always wonder how photographers who are coming from outside into a place that they from, how do they navigate looking at a subject outside of like this exoticizing, or in our case, like someone, you said you're in Islamabad, but you're from Balochistan, so you're not necessarily an outsider the whole time, but some privilege, like say when you go to the slums. So do you worry about, like, are you unconsciously affected by the exoticizing gaze? Do you think about that sometimes? Is there a way that you navigate that?
Yeah, obviously, whenever you go to places like this, uh, you you know that you're privileged and that you have certain power. Although when you're photographing a subject and it's a one day project, so you don't really have that much time to make the subject understand. But obviously, the first thing that I do is I just talk to that person that I'm going to photograph off the camera and just be very honest with them. Okay, we have to take your picture. This is for this reason, and and you have to specially tell them this, that I may not change your life. Like, I'm not in a position to change your life. I'm here to photograph, and I believe that this photograph can make a difference. And I want you to, understand that and what photography is. So obviously, the first thing is that you be honest with your subject and you just communicate with them. This is how they agree to be photographed, or else nobody in Pakistan wants to be photographed. It's very hard to get people, ke please picture ke liye wo. So unless it's a wedding, nobody agrees to be photographed like this. So first, communication is the key. But whenever I go to places like these, there's something that, वापस घर आते हुए, I just, feel really, really stressed, and I have my heart heavy of how easy things are for us, and how unjust the world is. And with the kids, because documentary is something that for my documentary particularly, it's a short doc, but I have been spending a lot of time with those kids. And now they know that there is no power dynamic. They know the power dynamic, and I'm not in the power position anymore. So what's really interesting is that I have spent most of the time with them off the camera. And now they're so comfortable with me and the camera that they operate the camera with me, they make videos with me. I bought them another camera and they shoot for me from that camera.
Yeah.
And so with the kids, it's just about communication. It's just about spending time. So
I like that this is an interesting trust building approach, is to give them their own camera to play with and work with. And on that note, I'd love to hear about this documentary. We've talked about it, you've mentioned it a little bit, but I'd love to hear what it's about. Could you tell us perhaps when it's going to come out, or what the how long it's going to be, and perhaps we can talk more about it when it's actually released.
Inshallah. So this documentary, it's a short doc, 20 to 30 minutes duration, and it's about the kids working in the coal fields. Now, they don't necessarily go inside the mines, they just do coal sorting. They just separate coal and rocks. So they just do sorting, but obviously it's some kind of a job, any job related to these mines is exploitative in nature. And it's supposed to be like this by default. So my documentary is not going to be about the exploitation or showing them as victims. It's more of looking at these children beyond that, beyond the realm of this exploitation and everything. So it's going to be discovering how these young boys have kind of embraced adultness in this age. And it's also about how they feel about the work, their emotions, their personal relationship. Do they love someone or not? It's going to be more than just them working in the mines. It's going to be about them. So it's going to be a really emotional film, if I may say. And it's about them and their friendships, because they come from different places, different houses, and they just reunite in this mine, and they have developed this kind of a friendship. So it's about their friendship, it's about them, it's basically their stories. So at first, I took a lot of interviews, long interviews with almost every kid over there. But then I just sensed this, that the kids were kind of not comfortable when they were working over there or when they had this coal dust on their face. So they would ask me to wait. They would go clean up and then come back, and then they would let me record the interview because they didn't like to be seen this way. So I kind of respected that and I deleted all of those interviews. So now I'm only going to use their audio, and the visuals are going to be just their hands, their feet, their shadow, their backside. So I think it's very important to consider. I mean, they are children, and obviously whenever you're photographing or documenting children, you have to ask for their parents' consent, which obviously I asked. But then there's their own consent as well. If they're not comfortable with the idea of being photographed or filmed in a particular way, so I just thought, let's just not do it. Let's just capture their hands, feet, their shadow. We'll do it in this way. I think the message, if my documentary's message had to be conveyed, it would just go anyway, without showing the faces. If someone had to feel something, they would feel it anyway. It's not necessary that I show their faces.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a very, it's a very refreshing approach, because most people don't take, for the sake of so-called accuracy, a lot of people don't want to sort of make a person change their appearance for a documentary purpose. But then that sort of ignores the fact that you have to respect a person's choice as to how they want to be portrayed as well. And to sort of add to the documentary that you're working on, we were introduced to yours and Shah Meer, who is the reporter for the piece you worked on together, both of your work through the piece you guys did for The Guardian on coal mines in Balochistan. And so that is a very powerful piece. Everyone should check it out. We've shared it before, but we can share it again. That's sort of the was what really drew us to your work. So for those of you who are tuning in, please look at Shah Meer Baloch and Mashal Baloch's work on The Guardian. They've done really powerful reporting and photojournalism on coal mines in Balochistan. And I'm wondering also, was that Guardian story the first introduction that you had to this issue, or had you been wanting to do this for a very long time? I'm curious as to you've developed sort of a friendship and a trusted relationship now with your subject in this context. But I'm wondering as to how did it start? Like, was it difficult to really get them to approach them in the beginning? And like, what was those initial conversations like? And how did you build that relationship from there?
So obviously, everyone that's living in Balochistan knows much because of the coal mines. Everyone knows it because of the coal mines and because of this huge jail over there, much jail. So I knew that this was a story, and Shah Meer had shared this with me. So obviously, I wanted to photograph this, but then I wasn't sure if my parents would allow me to go to Much and then come back, because it's like it's an 1.5 hour drive from Quetta. And when you go there, you have to spend at least 5 to 6 hours, look for interesting stuff. And then it's like a 3-4 day project, right? So obviously I wasn't sure if they'll allow me, but surprisingly they did. So when I went there and I saw kids working over there and even adults working over there. So this was what really this clicked in my mind, that I have to make a film not about the adults but about the kids working in those fields. So it was because of this story that I was drawn back to that place. So I just decided that I'm going to make a film about this place, and it's going to be about the children and about children getting comfortable with me it was most of the people suggested that I just go there, tell them the idea, and then I just start filming, straight away filming. But I did not like this idea because in a place like Balochistan, where they we're very culturally rooted, so even if we go on a dinner at someone's place, we just have dinner and then we try to spend 1 or 2 hours more over there so that they don't feel bad that we just had dinner and we just left.
Yeah.
So these are the cultural things that you have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So when I was there to photograph them, and because they are also Baloch, and I know how Baloch people are, so obviously I knew that they would get offended if I just go there and take camera. So I spent 4 to 5 days just off the camera with them when they used to get free from their work. So we would just sit under a tree's shade, and then we would just talk. And they really like that because there's actually no one that talks to them, just talk. So they like that. So I kind of respected that relationship. So later I told them that I'm going to be making a film about them. What do they feel about it? So the storyline was, it kept evolving, and it was because of their feedback and their feelings. They told me that they don't want to be filmed in a certain way, so I kind of agreed with them. So and they would tell me, okay, shoot this, shoot that. Do you want me to take this shot? And whenever I would go there, they would take my bag. They would say, okay, मैं tripod fix कर देता हूँ. They would fix the tripod for me. They would help me.
I think we've lost you for just a second. Sorry, the signal appears to be weak. Sorry.
You don't go, we will do this. So
Sorry, we lost you for just a second. You were talking about the point where they helped you with the tripod and things like that.
yeah, they still do.
Okay.
Because they know that I'm all alone. I have 2, 3 bags with me, and then there's all this gear. So they try to help me in that way. And now that most of them are quite interested in the camera, how camera operates. So they have kind of learned how to record. So there are some shots in the film that are recorded by them. They have placed the camera themselves and they have recorded those scenes. So there's really no, I'm not in the power position anymore.
Yeah.
So
I'm really
that kind of a relationship with them now.
That's really nice to hear, and we would be really excited to see this documentary when it's out. I think it's going to be a really amazing one to watch. I'm very excited to see it. So everyone who's watching, please stay tuned. We'll keep an eye out for the work. So I'm curious as to, you've covered so many stories across Balochistan, and you're still doing your college. So that's extremely exciting and impressive that you managed to do all this while studying at the same time. I'm wondering as to were there some stories that you've covered, particularly perhaps whether it's something like the protest you covered for SAAG Anthology or others that you felt were very, very difficult for you mentally as a photographer, things that sort of you came home and were struggling with more compared to others, or even some that you didn't feel like you sort of struggled with how you were portraying the subjects. Were there any like that you experienced?
Yeah, there was this one story that's also written by Shami. It was about Uyghurs, and we went to Rawalpindi to take pictures, obviously. So the first 2 days we just went there and talked to the subjects. So there was this man whose wife was detained in China, and now his son was also detained in China. So he was such a nice man, and he used to be so he wouldn't show his emotions to us, like how sad he is. So I was just waiting for a moment where I could capture that sadness, but he wouldn't allow that because it's not easy to, just give away that emotion to an outsider, suddenly. It just not happens like this. So we kind of spent 2, 3 days with him, and he also came to Islamabad. He told us, and we met him in Islamabad too. So I took his picture that was published in LA Times. He was kind of halfway smiling, and he had tears in his eyes. And I captured that moment. So while shortlisting those pictures, I was really, really confused whether I should send it to the photo editor or not. Because he was like he looked very emotional, and I was feeling that whether I should send it or not. But then I thought, if I don't send it out and if people don't see it, they won't know what he's going through. So it was kind of important to, send that picture so that people know the sadness. Lots of people messaged me out after that picture that there's a lot of sadness in this picture. So this is a really hard choice, when you're a photographer, this is a really hard choice that you have to make, that you decide which picture you have to send, and then you have to, tell yourself how important it is, you know, to just let the world know about it. So this was something that was very hard for me to decide which one of those pictures am I going to send.
That was a very, very powerful story about the families of Uyghur families who are in Pakistan, whose families are also detained in China. But I think this man was a Pakistani, right? Who was married to a Uyghur woman, if I remember the story correctly. So yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I remember that photo. It was a very, very, very powerful photo, and yes, I think that you've touched upon a very, very big dilemma in how to depict and tell stories. Is like, you have to show the truth, but you also see the vulnerability and how difficult
Yeah.
subject to depict that vulnerability. So yeah, that's a very, very important story to share. I'm wondering, as also, this is also more about things that you wished that you did. Like, is there a photograph or an event or some issue that you wish or you still want to capture or cover in your career as a photojournalist?
Um, okay, there's this story. I took pictures of doctors working in PIMS, Islamabad, in the corona wards. So it was a really tiring process, obviously, getting access and everything. You have, because PIMS is a government institute, so you have to give them each and everything in written and on paper. So when I got there out of, after all of that difficulty, so I told them, like, I have to spend like a whole day over here and I need access to the corona ward and inside the ward as well. So they allowed me to photograph till the green zone, but not the red zone where the ICUs start. So I was really sad about it. Like I wanted people to know what the ICU. I myself wanted to know how the ICU wards look like, and there were photographers working for Reuters and other news agencies in other countries who were going inside the ICUs and they were photographing patients just to give people an idea how all of this works. So I really wanted to photograph that area, but they would just not allow me. So I just remained in the green zone and I took pictures of the red zone from a glass door and a glass window. It was very difficult, I was just like, there was just a glass between me and that red zone and that blurry glass. I was so mad about it because I couldn't get the pictures right. It was just so blurry.
Yeah.
And it's a hospital. It's an emergency area. You cannot ask them to, please, shisha saaf kar dein thoda. You cannot ask that. So I just had to take pictures from that glass door and that window. I was really sad about it. Like I did all this worry out of all of this, and they didn't let me in.
But
So I wanted to photograph that, and I
in some of these situations, like in a corona ward, obviously you're going into the heart of like this situation where there's infection risk, there's all these other, um, specifically for this situation and maybe in other situations, have you ever been like nervous for yourself or a little bit scared of what you're walking into, or are you just more, focused and driven by the photograph that you have to take?
I used to be scared, you know, but I don't think I'm scared anymore. It's also because I think it's also because I belong to Balochistan, and like we've seen it all. So I don't feel scared anymore. And when I see people like Mahrang and other activists, I just can't, I can't be scared then, when I see Mahrang and other people, other activists, other female activists. So फिर मेरा डरना नहीं बनता. If she can, be on the roads for the rights of people, for the rights of students. So I'm just photographing. I mean, it's, you know,
I think everyone is,
so I just don't get scared anymore.
yeah, you're telling the
I
story.
don't know if it's a good thing or not.
No, I mean, I think that as you're saying, it takes time to grow into a role, and you used to be scared, but not anymore. And I think that specifically talking about like the issues in Balochistan, and as you're saying, you've been covering Mahrang's protests, and you've been invested and involved in telling those stories for a very long time. Does that often like, there is so much grief that you're covering. You're covering a lot of, I hate using these words. They're very typical for like, cliched words, is that you're covering people who have been protesting and talking about issues that have been going on for decades. So there's some form of, you're covering a very resilient movement that's going on in Balochistan. And like, so do you often, I wonder if like this is not so much about being scared, but do you sometimes feel tired or disillusioned sometimes by covering stuff that involves so much pain? Like, does it affect your mental health sometimes when you're in these situations for so long and going deep into such tough storytelling?
Huh. Obviously, it it kind of stressed me out, and also sometimes I also feel like sheer hopelessness. Like, why am I even taking these pictures now? When you see that nothing's gonna change, and sometimes you feel like, why am I doing this now? In recent times, like most of what are the things that are going on in Pakistan and specifically Balochistan. So obviously you just stay hopeless, and you feel tired and stressed. But especially for the Marang story, I was like, because Marang is so powerful, she's a powerhouse. So in that situation, I thought, okay, nahi, like I have to do this, and I have to, photograph this. I have to, because in the initial days of the protest, there was no coverage. The only coverage the protest got was from Twitter. And that too from Marang's Twitter, because she has a lot of following, not from the other hundreds of students' Twitter account, just from the Mahrang's account, because she's an activist, she has a following. So later it got on to local news and other places. So it's subjects like Mahrang and other keep me motivated.
Yeah. So we are almost, we're close to finishing. I'd love for anyone who's watching, if you guys have any questions, we've had the same, like, thank God we've got like 20 something people watching our discussion, which is really nice. So thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, please share them below. We'd love to answer them or take a look, address any questions you have. But I'm also, you're working on a documentary. You have a lot of ongoing projects, and you've got school happening. Is there any project in addition to the documentary that you're excited about, or that you're excited to cover? Any exciting things coming up?
Exciting things. It's my documentary.
Yeah.
It comes out by the end of March. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Where will it be?
April. Yeah. It's going to be probably April. So I haven't really thought of that, whether I'm going to premiere it or not. And I think I have to think about that because I still have to edit my film
Okay.
and I still have to work a lot on it. Once I'm done with the editing, then I'm going to think about where I'm going to premiere it or whether it's going to be a private screening or a
Mm.
premiere. So
Okay.
that's a
We're,
talk for later.
and we would, at SAAG Anthology, we would love to see it at some point. Whenever you're willing to share, we'd love to share it. So,
Inshallah.
so Asad Mir Baloch is asking what kind of documentary you are making. Well, so we addressed this early on in the live chat. So when we sign off, you can go and see the from the beginning. Mashal does talk about in detail. It's about the coal mines of Balochistan, and specifically in Mach. And you're getting a lot of messages from people saying they're very inspired by you and your work. So keep it up. Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you for all the wonderful work you do. Um, I guess on a more broader note, and right before we sign off, we can touch upon this. Like, if you were, are you reading? Is there any sort of books or literature or writing around the subject of whether it's photojournalism or otherwise that particularly moves you, inspires you in your line of work?
Mm, um, I I I think it's Woman Photograph Group. It's a group, Woman Photograph. I mean, it's on Twitter and Instagram. It's a really good platform, and it made me realize how like the percentage, the statistics of women photographers around the world. It's just so less. So things like these, which tell me, like, they kind of motivate me. Okay, yeah, you're a woman and you can photograph. So, like lately, a lot of people think that photography is something like it's a boys' club and
Mm,
it's just something that only male can do. And I haven't seen any photojournalist in Pakistan except Sayana. So I think there is a lack of women photographers generally around the world and in Pakistan mostly. So whoever is interested in photography and watching this live session, you should, try photojournalism.
yeah, this is actually
I mean, it's needed.
someone just asked us.
Like women need to claim
Yeah.
this space.
So someone did just ask us if you have a message for women who are passionate on starting photojournalism, specifically in Balochistan. Like, what kind of advice would you give to, say, other women in Balochistan who want to do what you're doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, you sort of just answered that.
I would say,
Go ahead.
yeah, but I would say that women anywhere around the world are capable of, you know, every every wonder, everything. And we just kind of, it's just a woman thing that we just underestimate ourselves and we have this imposter syndrome. I think we should, trust our capabilities more, all the women. And to all the women aspiring photographers or journalists, photojournalists, you should all, you can always get in touch with me and you all can, I mean, there's nothing stopping you. If I can, I'm not saying this because I'm a photographer, it's just that if I can do this thing alongside my studies and other stuff that I do, documentary and everything, so obviously anyone can. If Mahrang can do it alongside studying medicine, if she can do activism, then anyone can. I mean, we just tend to underestimate ourselves. So I think we just need this reassurance,
Yeah.
we women.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you there. So I think that this is like, has been a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Are there any things that,
Likewise.
that you really want to address, or anything in particular that you feel like you really want to bring up on this session? Otherwise, I'd love to sort of, we can close up and like, continue sharing your work and keep talking as you keep working on your documentary.
I would just say that it would be really, really nice that that I see more of women photographers and women filmmakers in Pakistan. I think lots of people, like I've seen in Islamabad, lots of people study media sciences and other mass comm and other things related to media. But how the world has changed, I think people should switch to digital stuff. They should try making films, photographing, photo essays, short docs. I mean, it can be anything. Just give it on YouTube, you know. And I just want, like, I don't want कि बस दो तीन ही औरतें हों इस field में ना. It's a really male-dominated field, photography and also photojournalism. So I would really want कि more of women participate in fields like this, and especially digitally, because this is
Yeah.
this is the new medium.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And for those of you who want to see more of Mashal's work, you should check again. I've already sort of said this over the course of our conversation, but you should definitely check out the piece that she did alongside Shah Meer Baloch about Mahrang Baloch and her activism. And there's some amazing photographs in there. You can also see some of your work is available on your Instagram account as well. So you can also check it out on her Instagram account, which is in the conversation we're having. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again also for being a part of, this effort to tell more diverse stories in South Asia, in Pakistan especially. It's been really nice to chat with you, especially since we've only been emailing a little bit over the last few. So
it was an absolute honor to work for SAAG, and I really enjoyed this session. I mean, I didn't even feel like it was an interview, or it was just like a normal conversation.
I mean, we should just have more conversations like these on social media.
Yeah, more conversations.
And actually,
definitely.
I'm like trying to extend this as much as I can, because we have some really good questions that just came in. Rafe just asked, what is your biggest issue with how non-Baloch people report on Balochistan?
Sorry, what is my biggest issue?
So Rafe just asked, what are your biggest issues with how non-Baloch people report on issues in Balochistan?
What are the biggest issues in Balochistan?
No, on how non-Baloch, so people outside Balochistan or non-Baloch people. You didn't hear it?
Sorry, I think I lost you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was asking, what are your concerns or issues with how non-Baloch people, so people outside the community, report on issues in Balochistan or issues pertaining to the Baloch community?
The issues Baloch people are facing?
Oh, no. So basically, how do you feel about outsiders reporting on issues in Balochistan? Like, have you had any issues with, say, people who are outside reporting? Like, have you seen any issues or things that you don't like about that kind of reporting?
Yeah. I get it now. Okay, so I have followed Matthew. He's a Nat Geo's photographer. He has worked on Balochistan, and it's about Hindu community. So I like the way he approached the subject and how he photographed Balochistan. So he was good with his subjects. But what I'm not okay with this whole, it's not about Balochistan, Pakistan. It's about how people make films and how people take pictures.
Okay.
Like, they kind of victimize their subjects, And I don't know what they're looking for. Is it sympathy or pity? I think it's like we've seen so much of that it's high time that we change this type of traditional storytelling. Like this, like it's not okay. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So this generally applies to whole Pakistan, not just Balochistan. That it's not okay to tell people to show people as victims, when it's not okay to carry on this traditional storyline, traditional way of telling stories that this is bichari, that is bichara, just for sympathy or pity. I don't know.
Yeah. It's important to show people in their full humanity as complex, real human beings, which...
So, do we have more questions?
No, I think that those are the main questions. I think we've covered those. So yeah, I think this was such a fun conversation. Thank you again. Keep this story will come up later on. So if you'll be able to share it again, the full conversation that we just had. So yeah, we hope that we can continue chatting and we can continue working together on different stories and different and have different interviews and conversations together as you keep working on your documentary. So yeah, thank you so much,
Okay, great.
and thank you to the audience for joining us, and yeah, keep following us and keep following Mashal's work, and definitely read and share her story.
Absolutely.
And yeah, have a good rest of your day/night. It's evening for you, so have a good rest of your evening.
No, thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. Okay.